Hey guys, it's the Unsmooth Criminal coming to you with part 3 of What If Deku, gotta get it right, Fem Deku could absorb quirks. So in the last part, she found out via Bakayo a little that she had feelings for some people in class, and she doesn't know who. She just looked at the class and her heart started racing, and she doesn't know why. So we're gonna skip a week or two. Everybody in class has gotten to know everybody else, and she's Izumi. I think I named her Izumi. I'm just gonna call her Izumi because it's average. No more thinking of other names. I'm just gonna use Fem Deku as Izumi. So, so she has gotten close to the class, and the closest people she gets to is Hawks and Mount Lady. And Bakugo sees that she's standing near and spending more time near Hawks and Mount Lady than anybody else. And Bakugo be right back. So there may be a chance where I slow down on recordings for you guys, but hopefully not, so I can get you guys the content you like and you deserve, because you guys follow me on YouTube and watch my content. You guys deserve good content. But back on topic. Baku has been seeing Izumi around Mount Lady and Hawks a lot more than anybody else, and Bakugo walks up to Mount Lady before Hawks and asks Mount Lady what is her sexuality, and Mount Lady goes, I have never been asked this question, and I've never felt anything for anybody before, so I don't know. And Bakugo goes, okay, I will talk to you later, and he walks off. And Mount Lady was walking towards Izumi to eat lunch with her, and was completely confused at that question. And Hawks, who's still in the lunch line, Bakugo is standing at the end of the lunch line waiting for Hawks, and when Hawks leaves with his chicken nuggies, sorry, that's funny to me, just the word chicken nuggies, it's funny. When he leaves the lunch line with his chicken nuggets, Bakugo asks Hawks what his sexuality is, and Hawks, who has said he's bi and he prefers women though, and Bakugo's, and then he points to Izumi and says, what about her? And Hawks is like, no comment. But he hesitated, and that's what Bakugo was looking for, because he's still a romance geek, a rom-com geek. And then he saw one of the female classmates, which I am definitely replacing. So I've replaced two. I'm saying that there was 21 slots this year in class. So Toga is in 1A. Toga is in 1A, and she's only like that because she has the ability to use other people's quirks when she transforms into them, or mimics them. So she mimicked someone's really strong quirk after taking some of their blood and started destroying them, or destroying the robots. But the downside of her quirk is she's addicted to blood, and she has vampire fangs. And she has an aversion to sunlight. She's not hurt or scared of sunlight. She just doesn't like the feeling of sunlight. So the next thing that happens is Bakugo walks over to Toga and asks her sexuality, and Toga goes, I would prefer to keep that private. And Bakugo goes, I've read enough rom-coms to know that when a girl stares at another girl, they're most likely either bi or lesbian. And Toga starts blushing because she didn't know that people were noticing her staring. Bakugo sees this and goes, don't worry, only I noticed. And Izumi at this point sees that Bakugo is talking to more than just his little friends group, and so she's getting very suspicious of Bakugo, because he normally hangs out with his friends group and doesn't venture too far out. So Izumi uses one of her manipulations and shocks Bakugo. And Bakugo, knowing exactly who did this, looks over to Izumi and she points up, signaling, go to the roof. And Izumi immediately disappears from where she was. And Bakugo sang to Toga, I will be right back, and we will continue this conversation if I'm not beat to hell. And she starts giggling, knowing that Bakugo's probably not going to survive what's happening to him. Because the strongest person in class is Izumi. Yeah, Izumi Aizawa, if I remember correctly. So the next thing that happens is Bakugo gets to the roof and says, Izumi, what a coincidence. I just wanted to talk to some new people, trying to get new friends. And Izumi goes, bullshit. What are you actually doing? And Bakugo goes, nothing. And when he was walking through the door, he didn't notice, but he didn't think that Izumi noticed the notebook he had in his hands. And Izumi asks, what is this? And holds up a notebook, and Bakugo starts patting his pockets down, being like, oh crap. And Izumi starts going through and reading, and she reads the title of the first page, Bisexual Harem. What? And Bakugo goes, and she goes, you could spit it out. I know you're addicted to rom-coms. And he goes, true. There's no hiding it. I am. That's why I let no one come in when we did the class room show off, or classroom competition, because I'm addicted to rom-coms, and my rom-com collection is twice as big as your Aizawa collection. And her face goes red in embarrassment, and she goes, what did you just say? And he goes, I know you look at your father like he's the only number one hero. I know you look up to him like he's an all-star. And she goes, no. And she starts stuttering and freaking out that people are listening. So she starts looking around. And Bakugo starts laughing, going, that's your tail sign whenever I'm hitting the truth. And what she doesn't know is Bakugo has been recording this, and he goes, so, I have a question for you, and I'll stop talking about your collection of your father's action figures and scarf replicas. She goes, shut up. And she's starting to get a little mad. He goes, who do you like, Mount Lady or Hawks? And she goes, I don't know. He goes, who do you like more? She goes, I don't know. And then Bakugo goes, okay. Do you like them the same? And she goes, yeah. She's like, where is this going? And she still doesn't know it's being recorded. And Bakugo goes, okay. Do you like Toga? The same as Mount Lady and Hawks. And Izumi goes, no, I like Toga a little bit more because she has her weird and quirky personality like I do. Hawks just has a weird quirk about eating chicken nuggets all the time, and Mount Lady has the loving herself kind of quirk that just is bland and boring because everybody has it. Well, most heroes have it. And Bakugo goes, okay. Would you go out with Toga? And Izumi goes beet red, going, bye, and flashes away, and the recording stops at the right moment because he was recording the entire conversation. It stops right after she leaves, and he goes, damn, that's pushing. I almost got my inspiration. And after school, he goes to his dorm, he locks his door, and he's like, time to write it. And an hour later, Izumi sees this new post from her favorite author, and it says, and it has a summary of main character is in love but doesn't know it, and she starts reading, and she is completely hooked. And the next day, Izumi goes down to the common room and sees Bakugo, and she asks Bakugo, did you read the new book from that one author that I like? And he goes, what's the name of the author? And she says the name, and Bakugo, knowing that that's his name and he's the artist, goes, yeah, it was a great book, wasn't it? And she goes, yeah. And her hearing the hesitation in his voice, he asks, okay, what happened on page 34? And he answers exactly what happened on page 34. And she's like, what happened on page 5, 9, and 21? And he answers exactly, and she's like, okay, so you did read it. And he starts sweating a little bit, and she goes, he must be not that big of a fan of his. And she is completely ignorant to her feelings. She just knows that the chemical reactions do different things. And when she's embarrassed, she has Hinata level stuttering. So later that day, Mount Lady, Izumi, Hawks, and Toga are all sitting at the same table for lunch, and Toga writes a note down and passes it to Izumi, and Izumi sees it and checks one of the boxes and passes it back, and Toga squeals in excitement, and they're both Hawks and Mount Lady ask, what was that? And Toga says it's a secret, can't tell. And the next few days, she's been getting love letters from a strange person. And these love letters are saying how this person adores her more than his favorite food. And she's completely weirded by this, and She's like, okay. And she's been talking to Katsuki about this the entire time. So every like 2 days, a new chapter of this new novel comes out. But then Izumi's completely hooked by this novel. And it shows each perspective of the characters that aren't the main character. And Katsuki is like, okay, so I want to ask you a question. Since you've read the books and the new chapters, what is the main character's feelings to the other characters? And she goes, oh, that's easy, love. And Katsuki immediately facepalms and says, how the hell can you understand the main character's feelings but can't understand your own? And she goes, what? And Katsuki immediately realizes that he was about to say something that would reveal him as the author and probably get his ass whooped by Izumi. So he quiets down and is like, I suggest you look at what you've been doing the last few days and really think over your life before you come and read the next chapter. And then the next chapter is a summary of the main character's ignorance and how stupid the main character is, because they don't even know their own feelings, and they know that. But the reader's like, dummy, you love the characters. And by this time, Katsuki has sent a copy to Hawks, Mount Lady, and Toga, and told them all to one day at the exact same time tell her your feelings. And if she stutters, then it's a yes. She feels the same. But if she doesn't stutter and says no, then she doesn't like you. And he's laughing the entire time while he's telling them to do this. And they all look at him like he's crazy. And he goes, have you read the last chapter of this novel series and you'll understand. So they read the last chapter and they go, oh. And they go, how did you match this novel up perfectly to Izumi? And he goes, I didn't. I wrote it on Izumi. And they're like, wait, what? And he goes, oh crap, don't tell Izumi. And they're going, I may tell Izumi. And Baka goes, please don't tell Izumi. I'm going to die if you do. And they're like, leverage. So, the USJ happens, and I think I haven't covered the USJ. I'll check. Never mind. The sports festival happens, and Izumi is the valedictorian of the school, and she gives a speech about how her quirk was uncontrollable and how her quirk has manifested in so many different ways, and she now can use her quirk to her max, and how if someone works hard enough, no matter if they're quirkless or not, they have the ability to succeed. And then she points to Hagakure, who's in Class 1B, and says the invisible woman, Hagakure, has basically no quirk for enhancement, just no one can see her. So she plays to her strength and stealth. but she still works her butt off to learn martial arts and to learn to try to learn a way to control her quirks so she looks normal. But she has no physical enhancement, unlike some people. So she's done with the speech, and the wheel spins, and Midnight is currently tearing up because of the beautiful speech Izumi gave. Just think of it. Just think of the rest of the speech by yourself, and think of it as beautiful. Too tired to write an entire speech. So Izumi is placed in the front, and she uses her manipulations and her strengths and all her other quirks that she's gathered, and basically teleports to the finish line and sits down and starts to meditate. And Mike hasn't noticed Izumi at the finish line, and Aizawa and Midnight just start giggling and thinking that their daughter is going to be the most powerful hero and probably number one. And they're happy for her. And Midnight then thinks about the novel that Izumi referred to her and got a signed author's copy in the mail. And Midnight remembers the signature being the same one that Bakayo uses. And she's like, oh. When Izumi figures out, she's going to be pissed. So Bakugo is waiting for Izumi. Well, thinks he has to wait for Izumi, so he keeps running. And when he gets there, he sees Izumi sitting on the floor. He's second, by the way. And he sees Izumi sitting on the floor. He's like, God damn it. I thought you were still at the beginning. She goes, oh, hell no, I wouldn't stay there. And she stands up and says, so, you want to talk to me? And he goes, yeah. I'll make a bet with you. I'll tell you my secret. I'll tell you my secret if you can win the sports festival. And she goes, bet. So the cavalry battle, they keep the million. Izumi's team keeps the million. Izumi's team is Izumi, Hawks, Mount Lady, and Toga. So it's the battle now, and Toga is given a sharp item because it's a sharp item that won't do very much damage, but it'll just draw enough. It'll do enough damage to draw just a tiny bit of blood. So she can actually use her quirk, unlike having to have a chance of getting blood and being utterly humiliated. So they made one exception for Toga, and that's it. And she has to go up against Bakugo first. And Bakugo absolutely bodies Toga. And he says, I win the bet. You gotta do it. And she goes, but why? So, Fumikage, Tokoyami Fumikage, has to go up against Mount Lady, and Mount Lady completely bodies Tokoyami. And Mount Lady now has to fight Bakugo. She doesn't have her, so she's around roughly 5 foot. She doesn't have her 30-foot form yet. She has her 12-foot form yet, right now. The more she uses her quirk, the higher she grows until she reaches her 30-foot form, which you see in the canon. And Bakugo planning a way to beat Mount Lady before she can grow. The next fight, which is Bakugo versus Mount Lady, Mount Lady gets absolutely bodied by Bakayo because his stupidly overpowered battle sense. Then Hawks has to fight Momo, and Hawks immediately bodies Momo, and then has to fight Todoroki. And Bakugo said to Hawks, if you can't beat Todoroki while he's just using his ice, then you're an absolute pushover, and you have to confess to Izumi. And he says, bet. He loses. He gets absolutely bodied. And Izumi is the final match because of how strong she's shown herself to be and how strong everybody else has shown themselves to be. There's a giant gap. So it's the entire school versus Izumi. And Izumi has one quirk canceling bracelet on, which cancels her absorption quirk and her all for one. And everybody asks, why does she have a quirk canceling? And then Mike explains Izumi's quirk and how it works, and they're like, oh, makes sense. Then Monoma, damn idiot he is, uses his quirk and tries to copy her quirk absorption. But since she has so many quirks, he fries his own damn brain. Don't worry, I'm going to do something. One of my what ifs, I'm going to do something which Monoma is actually going to be good. And Monoma is going to get his time to shine because his copy quirk is freaking overpowered. It's freaking overpowered. But he's just an ass, so he can't use it properly. So he gets absolutely bodied because he fries his own brain. Izumi body flickers him away. If anybody knows what body flickers is, you get 10 billion points that do absolutely nothing. So Monoma was body flickered away in 2 recovery rolls, and Izumi's still there. Well, is there after she body flickers back and says, bring it. All of Class 1A rushes her, and she is overloaded for a split second, and then she starts fighting with her full strength. Well, not her full strength, but she uses her manipulation to push people together, knock people around. And Midnight and Aizawa said that if Izumi even takes one step out of the circle, which is a 2-foot diameter circle, she loses. Unless she's taking someone to Recovery Girl really quickly, which then she'll disappear completely. So the entire Class 1A is completely demolished. The only one who has a close estimate to what she can do is Bakugo because of his animalistic fighting technique and fighting prowess. So Bakugo withstands her just a tiny bit. And by the time that Bakugo is knocked out, the rest of the classes are like, what the hell is she? And Izumi's like, I can't move. You guys are going to have to come towards me or this is never going to end. So the rest of 1B saw her take down Monoma, who's the strongest in that class, without even lifting a finger. Rush at her, and the big 3 also join in because Nezu said the big 3 are going to join in for the last fight, the showstopper of the night. And Mirio tries to punch Izumi in the back. But Mirio gets stopped in midair because of Izumi's manipulations. She has wind manipulation and water manipulation. If you want to think of it as bending, she has she has air bending and water bending. So she completely stops him in midair and says, it's not nice to hit a girl. and then throws them across the arena. They don't have a area of where they can't go, but Izumi does. And Nejire throws energy waves at her, and Tamaki is using his tentacles and trying to hit Izumi. And all the pros are seeing this and are like, what the hell is she? And Aizawa says, ever since Izumi was abducted by Overhaul and abducted by One for All, she's had the quirk of Overhaul and One for All. That's why she has gloves on, and that's why she is so overpowered, because she's taken the quirks from high-ranking villains that have very powerful quirks and stopped them from escaping Tartarus. And he explains what Izumi has done for heroes and how she has also saved All Might's life from a fatal injury that he had, because one of the villains had a really strong healing quirk that reversed time. If anybody knows who that is, it's Eri, but she was a little older and she joined up with Overhaul. So I kind of switched Mount Lady and Eri. Mount Lady lost an age and Eri gained the age Mount Lady lost. So Eri was currently 16 when Izumi was abducted. And now Mount Lady is in My Hero. So, more of My Hero instead of just a few scenes. And the heroes who were watching those scenes are like, oh, so that's the secret weapon Aizawa was talking about. And all the heroes start chattering, and then they hear a giant boom from the stadium, and they see the ground starting to form spikes. Or not spikes, dull points that hit people and are knocking them around. Every time the point hits somebody, it goes boom into dust and then reforms and pushes at somebody else. Because she's mastered every single one of the quirks that she has gained. So now she's using Overhaul's quirk, and since Aizawa said that she had Overhaul's quirk, she was given permission to use it. And then she starts using manipulations she's gotten and the quirks she's gotten from the villains. 10 minutes later, the fighting is all done. All the people are currently in the infirmary, knocked out. And Recovery Girl walks out and says, "As you give me way too much work." And Izumi scratches the back of her head, saying, "Sorry, Recovery Girl. I went gentle on them at least." And she goes, "If you think broken ribs and broken arms is gentle, I don't want to see what angry is." And she goes, No, you don't." And so after that, Mount Lady, Hawks, and Toga all walk up to Izumi in a private room and confess, and Izumi starts stuttering and goes and runs away before she can answer. So Hawks, Mount Lady, and Toga all go to Bakayo and tell him what happened. Oh, I got an itch in the back of my throat. Tell him what happened, and he goes, "I expected that to happen." So I kind of caught the culprit in the act of running away. And he's currently holding her in a corner with her collar, and she's trying to run away because she's nervous. She doesn't even notice she's not running anymore. She's just floating in the air because of Bakayo. And everybody's like, "Oh, you caught her! Thank you." And Toga, Mount Lady, and Hawks grab Izumi and walk to the private room, lock the door, and they have some fun. And later, this was at the dorms, by the way. Izumi was at the dorms. They go to their private room. Izumi goes to her private room with... No. They drag her into her private room. And they have some fun, and later Izumi walks out, and all she has on is a sports bra and some pants. And she looks like she's going for a jog, but she also looks like she just got back from a jog. And Bakayo, thinking of the perverted actions they did, starts getting a nosebleed and starts writing in a journal. And Izumi sees the journal and asks Bakayo, "What are you doing?" with a sweet smile that, if you guys have watched the Kisune, not Femme Naruto, the Kisune series, knows exactly what this smile means. And the trickle of blood stops, and Bakayo looks up horrified. Says, "Nothing. What are you doing?" And she goes, "I'm grabbing something to drink. And probably some meat to beat." And she cracks her knuckles, and he starts running, and she chases him. And after an hour of her beating him, he gets let off the hook, and she goes, what is this even?" And she opens it and reads the summaries for every single one of the books. And it says chapter 4. No, not chapter 4. Chapter 10. And it shows the art and the things, and it's not done yet. And she looks at him and she goes, "What the hell is this?" And he goes, "Nothing," and tries to grab the book. She goes, "Tell me what this is or I burn it." And he goes, "Fine, fine, fine. You know that book series you really, really love?" And she goes, "Yeah." And he goes, I'm kind of the author." And she pales at this. And she goes, No. And he goes, "Yeah, I remember the one that was signed by the author Midnight has." She goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, if you look at my signature on documents I sign, you'll see that it's the same signature." And she goes, "No." So she runs into Aizawa's office and grabs his copy that's signed by the author, and looks at the document that Bakayo signed to participate in the sports festival, and sees that they're the exact same signature. And she goes, "Katsuki! Bakayo!" And he books it as fast as he can. And he is not waiting around to know what she's willing to do. So while he's booking it, Mount Lady finally finds the strength to get up and walks out of the room fully dressed and clothed. Fully dressed and clothed. And Izumi stops next to Mount Lady and says, "How you feeling?" And she goes, "Fine. I'm still a little weak in my legs." And she goes, "It happens when you have fun." And Mount Lady gets a trickle of blood on, like the anime nosebleed, the cliche anime nosebleed, when she thinks about what they did. And Izumi's like, "You made me do that." And Mount Lady goes, Yeah, I did." And Hawks, by this point, has woken up and is eating a a plate of chicken nuggets in the kitchen because he flew out of the balcony to not get noticed by anybody. And he's without a shirt. And he never noticed when he left that his shirt is still in Izumi's room. And then Toga comes out and doesn't want to wear a shirt, so she grabs some of the blood that she took from Hawks and transforms into Hawks. And she goes out and starts eating chicken nuggets with Hawks. And Hawks is just talking to Hawks. And everybody looks at this and is like, the hell? How's there two Hawks? And Mina, overhearing the conversation between Mount Lady and Izumi, she walks up to Izumi and says, "Can I join next time?" And Izumi says, "Are you ready for 5 straight hours?" And Mina goes, "No." And Izumi goes, "Yes." So later that night, no one got sleep. Except for the 5 that were in Izumi's room. Aizawa, who lives with Midnight, knows that the kinkiness of Midnight has been passed down in the genes. So he was like, this is normal for the Midnight family, and ignores it and falls asleep. The rest of the class is like, what the hell is happening in there? And they hear moans and since Izumi has manipulations, she has a transformation quirk, so she can transform into whatever form she wants. So she could change her arm into a tentacle, she can change her leg into a tentacle, she could change her arm into 2 arms, she can even change her private parts into a different private part. So 5 hours after they're done, they all are passed out in a jumbled mess on Izumi's bed. And everybody's like, is it over? And Katsuki, who's currently using a telescope from the support course's roof for inspiration on his book, feels a chill down his spine. And he... oh, crap. Damn itch. And he turns around to see where the chill is coming from and sees Izumi with the nice smile on her face and goes, Kachan? And he gets scared whenever she calls him Kachan. Oh, crap. Sorry for coughing. Freaking itch hurts. Especially when you cough. And he goes, hi, Izumi. And uses explosions to try to fly off. He currently has the book in his mouth. And Izumi using her temperature manipulation to heat the book up to 451 Fahrenheit. The book catches fire. And she uses her fire manipulation to burn the entire thing really quickly. So she doesn't hurt Bakugo. But he has one little flame-shaped burn on the left side of his top lip, and it matches the edge or the bottom of a flame-shaped burn or flame shape on the emojis on the bottom of his left lip area. And Bakugo is like, ow, this freaking hurts. And he's still flying away, trying not to get his ass whooped. And when he gets into his room, he sees Izumi there. cracking her knuckles, being like, it was not a good idea for you to watch. And he goes, I know, I wanted inspiration. And Izumi goes, I want the first edition. And he goes, okay. I'll give you the uncensored edition too. And she goes, make that 2 of them. And he goes, okay. I'll give you 2 uncensored editions, the next one and the one after. Okay? And she goes, I want them signed too. And he goes, okay, I'll get them signed too. They'll be the only uncensored editions besides mine, and they'll be the only signed uncensored editions. She goes, okay, better remember. He goes, I will. And he goes, and she goes, oh, by the way, I kind of copied your book over. And he goes, what? And she goes, you remember I have the ability to make clones, right? And he goes, oh crap, the cloning villain. Forgot about that. And then she poofs and the book drops and he's like, the hell? That was a clone? So Katsuki was running from a clone that can't do anything to him because it's not half. It's the strength of the original person without any other quirks. So it's like a copy of a normal person. So the next day, Katsuki knocks on Izumi's door, and Izumi wakes up, and she puts on her sports bra and some pants and opens the door just enough that she sees Katsuki, and she puts her hand out, and Katsuki, who has bags under his eyes, puts the first and second uncensored books in her hand. She goes, you are forgiven. And she puts them on the table next to her and slams the door and locks it. And it's the weekend, so she jumps on the bed and everybody wakes up and she's like, ready for round 2? And Mount Lady, Hawks, and Toga, who are used to, or who have done it so many times with her, are used to this now. Are like, yeah, and Mina's like, I can't feel my legs, and they go, that'll pass in 2 to 3 more rounds. Except for Hawks. Hawks goes, that's normal after these. So a few more weeks pass, and Izumi has her harem, and she basically rules the school with an iron fist. Any bullying is not tolerated anywhere. And if you see bullying, report it to Izumi or any of the teachers so they can tell Izumi, and Izumi will thoroughly punish the person who's bullying. And she's so powerful that the heroes have to call on her sometimes to solve a villain situation. And she's known as the end-all be-all quirk user. And her nickname from the heroes and civilians is the goddess of quirks. And she's like, that's a nice nickname. And Izumi's like, what is a good god name? And Bakayo, hearing this, is like, oh god, she's taking the goddess of quirks name way too far. And Toga Toga says Persephone. Right, Persephone? No, Toga says Bellona, because Bellona is a fighting god, and Izumi's really good at fighting, and when you fight, there's blood, and Toga's still addicted to blood. Hawks, who doesn't mind sharing Izumi, yes, he doesn't mind sharing her, says, why don't you choose a goddess that is for either beauty or knowledge? And Izumi goes, no, that's too corny. And, and Mount Lady says, why don't you choose a goddess that has a weird side effect to them being a goddess? And Izumi goes, what do you mean? And Mount Lady says there's a goddess of magic, and the goddess of magic is forbidden from walking out of her area without messing up the natural flow of magic around the world. And the gods are also, whenever they see her, are entranced by her beauty so much that they have to leave the area or they will lose their minds. And Izumi goes, I may be a good person to name myself after. Maybe. And Mina walks in and says, why don't you just be a planet? And Izumi goes, true. The Roman gods are named after planets. And Mina goes, yeah, they are. And it would be a good idea for you to do so. And Izumi goes, true. I'm going to go with Jupiter. And everybody looks at her going, the Roman version of Zeus? And she goes, yeah, the Roman version of Zeus. There you go, Jupiter. Hold on, I need to check something. I'll only take a few seconds and I don't need to pause it for this. And okay, I checked it. Yes, it is Jupiter. So everybody's like, why Jupiter? And that's kind of a good name. And she goes, there's a movie called Jupiter Rising, and the female character's name is Jupiter. And she's a princess, and she points to everybody and says, you guys treat me like a princess, and it kind of fits. And they look at her and go, yeah. And Midnight walks in and says, I'm here to help you with your hero names. And Hawks and everybody else just facepalm, and especially Hawks, Mount Lady, Mina, and Toga facepalm because of the discussion they just had. And Midnight says, who's ready? And Izumi raises her hand saying, I have already discussed this with people and I think I'm ready. And Midnight goes, okay, what is your hero name going to be? And she says, my hero name is going to be Jupiter. And Midnight goes, okay, and that kind of fits. And she asks, why Jupiter? And Izumi says, I've been treated like a princess my entire life, and there's a movie about a person named Jupiter who's a princess, and the king of the gods, the ruler of the gods for Romans, is the god Jupiter, also known as Zeus for the Greek gods. And Midnight was like, that's a perfect name. Why didn't I think of that for her? And she goes, perfect. And Bakayo walks up going, I'm ground zero. There's no changing it. I'm ground zero. And Uraraka goes, I'm Uravity. Hawks says he's Hawks, and Mount Lady says she's Mount Lady. And everybody else gets their canon names. No explosion, murder, death for Bakugo. So that's fast. So then they get on to another version of Heroes versus Villains. And this time, All Might says you must call the members of your team by their hero names, and you must call the villains by their villain names. And they said you get to pick a temporary villain name for this exercise, and Izumi goes, I am Hades, the ruler of the underworld. And All Might, knowing her hero name is Jupiter, goes, why does that fit well? And she goes, because I am the ruler of this class and school. And she bows like a royal would and has a snobby look on her face like a royal would. And then she starts laughing, going, I'm just joking. I hate ruling. It's freaking hard. And everybody starts laughing at Izumi's antics. And then All Might says, okay, ruler. And he plays to it and says, you are the villain, everybody else is the heroes. And since everybody has been working on their special moves and Izumi's been slacking off this entire time, because yes, they have, and she goes, okay, I will do so. And she grabs the quirk canceling bracelet and she was about to put it on, and All Might says, oh, no, you're not allowed to do that. And Izumi goes, but if they hit me once with their quirks, they're going to lose it. And he goes, that's the rule of fighting. You got to change and adapt depending on what your situation is. And Bakugo is like, damn it, I have to use my quirk to get an upper edge, but if I use my quirk, I lose it. And everybody else is like, this is gonna freaking suck, except for Shoji. The tail dude. No, I got rid of the tail dude. Shoji, Mineta, and who else has a mutation quirk? Shoji Mineta has his hair as a mutation. Who else? Not Uraraka. Mina has acid. Besides acid, she has her mutation quirk, which changes her skin tone, hair, and all that. And she looks like an alien. Tokoyami. He doesn't lose Dark Shadow. Because Dark Shadow's like another limb to Tokoyami. So they have so Izumi says, this is unfair. Snaps her fingers. 19 more Izumis show up and it's like, this is fair. And everybody looks and pales and like, oh god, we have to fight 20 Izumis. And Bakugo was AP shot and shoots every single one of them except for normal Izumi and goes, they don't have any quirks. And everybody else looks at him and goes, you know, if she had quirks on those, you would have lost yours. And he goes, I know, but I've already done it before. Fought her freaking clones and they're cannon fodder for her. And she goes, no, they're not. So All Might goes, okay, you have 5 minutes to set up and then you have to defend the bomb. And All Might gets in character and says, young heroes, you have to fight and defeat Hades, the number one villain, and who's currently on a rampage, and we have knowledge of their quirk of absorption. So once you use your non-mutation type quirks on her, she will take it and probably use it against you. And everybody else gets into character and says, yes, sir, and gets ready. And All Might says, we breach in 5, 4, 3, and by this time, Izumi has turned off the lights and gotten ready for a fight. But she got the scenery right. So she has transformed clones that look like dead bodies all around. She has random cops, random heroes, some of the non needed heroes, some cops don't even have faces. They just have skulls. There's blood everywhere from what she set up. And the only room that's not covered in blood is the bomb room. And it's spotless. Because she still has the clean freak part of her. And she acts because she goes out to check to see if there's anybody there. And looks and sees the blood and goes, ugh. And he closes the door, uses the overhaul quirk to slam the door shut. Then uses the overhaul quirk again to build a box around the bomb. And All Might says 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and does hand signs for go, 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 like the cops use in breaching. And all the students run in. Some of the students go to the higher floors to scout, but when they all run in, they immediately stop and empty what they had in their guts at the sight and smells that were released in this area. So Izumi is currently basically making herself a home, and then she uses her heightened senses to hear when he says go, and she breaks her home down and flattens it and makes clones to look like hostages. And All Might says Izumi can use whatever kind of distraction, even faking hostages, which you have to treat as real hostages. So she made random civilians. She made a copy of Midnight and a copy of Aizawa, a copy of Toshinori, not All Might, Toshinori. And she tied them up and hid them in a corner and with fire around them, slowly suffocating them. And Bakayo finally gets to the top floor where there's less bodies and less death and says this is the room that she'd be in, and over the comms. And okay, and everybody asks on the comms saying, what do you mean this is the room she'd be in? And he goes, this is the least dirty area in the entire place. And they go, true, she is a clean freak. And the intel gatherer, Shoji, says there is what sounds to be 3 hostages in the room with her, and what looks like to be they're tied up in a box of fire, and it looks like they're slowly suffocating. And Bakugo says, where are they? So I can punch a hole through the wall and give them air. And Shoji says they're in the far right corner closest to the door. And Bakugo says, okay. And he punches a tiny hole in the wall. And the Shoji says they have stopped gasping for air. Who's breaching first? And Mina says, I will open a bigger hole in the wall to start evacuating them once you guys hop in. And Shoji, who's told to come up, immediately runs up and gets ready to bust in with the rest of the assault team, which is mostly mutation quirks. So everybody's getting ready for a fight, and Izumi is like, they're highly coordinated, and All Might's currently in the room watching this fight and is watching and watching and watching and seeing how coordinated they are. And sees that Izumi has created doppelgangers of people, and he hears over the comms that Shoji sees 3, but there's in actuality 14 hostages, and most of them have been laid in front of the door. Not in front of the door, in front of the window, so no one can see them from outside. But the biggest ones and the hardest ones to hide are in the front right of the room. So Bakugo busts down the wall, and everybody comes charging in, ready for a fight. And Izumi starts fighting them, and all of a sudden Bakugo goes, "There's more hostages, damn it!" And they refocus and see that there are more hostages laying in front of the wall, and sees a timer above the bomb, and it says 2 minutes and 33 seconds. And Bakugo runs over to the bomb, and he has to turn off the timer by cutting wires. And if he cuts the wrong wire, the timer speeds up or just immediately hits 0. And since Katsuki is a bomb person, an explosive hero, he specifically asked the police and military to teach him on if there's a limited amount of time left on a explosive device, how should I get rid of it if I need to get rid of it? And they said either throw it really high in the sky, or get everybody out of the building, or call the bomb squad. If there's a minute left, try to defuse it yourself, and if you don't, you're SOL. Sorely out of luck. That's what SOL means, by the way. And Katsuki's like, God damn it. Wish I had a bomb squad here so they could show me how to do this. Because they've been showing him on dummy bombs that have no chance of blowing up, but they tell him that they're live. To get the nerves and adrenaline pumping. And they sneak in once in a while a live bomb that has a longer time than normal, but they say that this one is twice as strong as the normal bomb that they use. And this is a fake bomb, so Katsuki is treating it like a real bomb and is looking at the design wiring, and he sees the power source is only connected with one wire. And he's thinking, if I cut that, then the timer shuts off, but what about the bomb? Then he looks at it and sees that there is no bomb, and it's a fake bomb. So it's just a Lego brick. It's literally a Lego brick with a sticky note that says bomb on it. And it has wires that go from the timer to the bomb. And some of these wires hook up to the battery. Some of the wires are a feedback. If the timer goes off, the energy sets off the bomb immediately. Or if the timer stops before it goes off, then the bomb doesn't go off. And there's a light above the brick that says if the bomb has gone off or not. So currently Izumi's fighting at human speeds right now, with everybody in class slowly ramping up speed. And when she sees 1 minute left on the bomb, she starts using more of her quirks. And then when it says 5 seconds left on the bomb, she leaves the building. And she's standing outside and is watching the clock. All of a sudden, the clock stops. And she's like, oh, so they did stop the timer. Then she pushes the button on the stopwatch and the light goes off on the bomb. And Bakayo sees the light and is like, crap. And All Might says, villains have won. They remotely set off the bomb. And Bakayo looks a little closer at the bomb, and it has a little antenna attached to a box. And the box that is attached to the Lego brick is not attached to the battery or the clock. And he looks at it and he goes, oh, crap. Then he looks at the back of the thing and it says, off and on switch. Then he gets a little peeved off and he starts banging his head against the bomb. And All Might shows up outside the building and everybody is leaving the building and is still a little disturbed at what they saw. And they ask Izumi if she's seen scenes like that, and she goes, no, but my father and mother have described scenes. Well, sorry. My father describes scenes like that, and my mother just cringes at him. And All Might says, what do you mean scenes like that? And Izumi says, I haven't taken the basically illusion down, and all you could see was into the bomb room. Why don't you hop in there and take a tour around my haunted mansion? And she says that with a devious smile. And All Might goes, okay, I will take a look and see how villainous you were in this exercise. He walks in and he immediately vomits with how gruesome the scene is. He walks out and says, yep, you're very villainous. I don't think I can ever unsee that. And then he asks Izumi if she's met Naomasa before. And she goes, yes, and that's why I put him at the front door. And All Might goes back through the scene he just saw and sees Naomasa, and he cringes and he goes, I don't know if it's a compliment or a insult that you just put him at the front door and ripped him to shreds. And she goes, oh, it's a compliment, of how loyal he is to the order and loyal he is to preserving the peace. And she's like, I wonder how I could get on the good side of the police department while she's in this exercise. So she called up Naomasa and patched him into the entire conversation, and also texted him, you're going to want to listen to this, especially at the end. And he shows up to UA and he asks Nezu, who greets him at the gate, wondering what he's doing there, if he can talk to All Might and Izumi Aizawa. And he goes, sure, have they done anything wrong? And Naomasa says, All Might, no. Izumi, yes. Well, slightly, yes. And I'd like to talk to you about it. And Nezu goes, okay, I'll call them to my office in a few minutes. They're currently at the training ground beta. So they get back to the main campus, and Izumi and All Might immediately go to Nezu's office, because that, and Naomasa sees Izumi walk in and he goes, I understand if you call me and patch me in through call, but did you have to hack in to the police department's radio and radio me that way? And she immediately goes, I think I should have texted you first, shouldn't I? And he goes, yeah, you should have. She goes, Sorry. But did you like what I said about you? And he goes, I am more mad at you than I am happy at you. And I'm only mad at you because of the hacking. And why did you disembowel me again? And she goes, I kind of thought it was a compliment because of how mad you make villains for catching them and stopping their rampages. And how good of a job you do. And they had to wipe you out before anybody else. He goes, and Nezu questioning disembowelment? What? And All Might is like, Nezu, I did another Heroes vs. Villains to test their progress. Never make Izumi a villain. That's the moral of this test. Never make Izumi a villain. And Nezu goes, I'm guessing it was that bad. And he goes, no, worse. And Namasa asks, how worse? And he goes, you know everybody who knows my true identity? And he goes, yeah. They're all dead. I even went in there and I was a hostage in my hero gear. And Izumi at this point is grinning like a madman, being like, yeah, it was fun. And Nezu's like, Izumi, would you like more training? And she goes, yeah. And because she's regressing mentally as a child because she wants to do stuff instead of just sit in a boring class. And Nezu goes, okay, I'll give you 5 times harder training than you have right now if you promise not to do that again. And she goes, but it was fun. But anyway, okay. And Naomasa agrees to keep an eye on Izumi and to watch her progress because she's going to go far in her career. And we go back to the dorms, and you and Hawks and Toga all ask at the same time, what did Nezu want with you? And Izumi laughs, saying, it's not what Nezu wanted, it's what one of the cops wanted that I killed. And Izumi goes, and not Izumi, they all go, what? And she goes, one of the cops that I showed at the beginning of the entrance, or at the entrance of the building, was Naomasa, or Suguuchi Naomasa. And I hacked into his military transmissions, his radio, and had the entire conversation you guys had, and he said you guys did a great job with your coordination, and had him listen to the entire thing. And he complimented you guys on how you guys work better together than any of the cops he works with. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And then she said, he scolded me for hacking into the police radios. And they all go, makes sense. Because they are police radios, not civilian radios. And she goes, but I just wanted him to listen. It was getting interesting. And then he said that, really? Disembowelment? And they go, you disemboweled a lot of people. And she goes, yeah. Not everybody I disemboweled, though. I made 2 clones of my father. I just ripped him limb from limb. And they go, guessing the more gruesome the death, the higher you think of them. And she goes, no, the more painful the death, the higher I think of them. And they go, okay. And she goes, you guys didn't see your own dead bodies? And they go, no, we didn't pay attention to seeing our own dead bodies. And she goes, okay, give me 1 minute. And she goes up to her room and recreates what they look like, and and she goes, okay, it's ready, go. And they all go up there and see that they're tortured. They were tortured to death. And they're shocked, and they go down to Izumi and say, please don't ever do that to us. And she goes, I wouldn't. I prefer you guys alive. And they go, oh, good. Okay, good. Good. And I'm going to leave it off there. And a little bit of a funny note. And I'll make sure if I've gone through the USJ or not. And I'll get the training arc and the final exams next episode. So have a great rest of your day, and bye.